Well, the Lord has really blessed us in answering our prayers for these bass, and tonight my wife is going to describe how to make bass l'orange, which is one of my favorite fish dishes. It really is scrumptious. But remember to pray when you go fishing. Give us today our daily bread, and the Lord will answer your prayers with some fish.
Tonight I'm going to make spotted bass l'orange, and it's very simple. We're going to start with 1/3 cup of chicken broth, which you could get from a can. I'm going to use chicken base to make 1/3 cup of chicken broth. You could also use white wine if you prefer, or some combination. I'm going to squeeze the juice of I'm using mandarin oranges today. So you could use a whole Valencia or navel orange. I happen to have mandarins in the house today, so I'm going to use 2 mandarin oranges. I'm going to use the smaller side of the grater to zest those oranges and put that in with the chicken broth. And then I have 3 mandarin oranges that I've sectioned here and partially peeled. You could use canned mandarin oranges if you wanted to. To the chicken broth, we're going to add a little pepper. I'm not going to add salt because I'm going to dredge the fish with a light coating of flour, to which I'm going to add lemon pepper, which is largely salt, and then cayenne pepper for a kick, which you can use or not use as you prefer. I'm going to put also in the broth a finely chopped clove of garlic. You could use some finely chopped onion if you prefer, but we don't. That's pretty much the ingredients, and oh, I left out the secret ingredient, which is fresh thyme, and I'll show you what we'll do with that very shortly. I've taken a few steps toward finishing this dish in the interim, and what we have here is the chicken broth, about 1/2 cup once you add the juice of 2 mandarin oranges to it. I put some black pepper in there as well. I've minced the garlic, and now we're going to go ahead and put that in to the broth. This is raw garlic, and so that's why once we get it into the pan, when it's time to finish the sauce, I'm going to go ahead and let that cook so it doesn't have that raw edge to it. Now, in my plants, I still have some fresh thyme, and so I am going to add the leaves of this fresh thyme to the broth. It's special. It's not necessary. You can certainly add something fresh is good, something fresh and green, some parsley, some basil maybe, if you happen to have it. One of the things that I'm trying to do as I offer you these recipes is give you something that you can do without too much work or expense. So I'm not telling you to go out and buy some sprigs of fresh herbs just to make it special, but think of what you have around or that wouldn't cost too much. I'm going to put that right in the sauce and let that be flavoring it. We're going to cook the fish first. We're going to coat the fish very lightly with the seasoned flour, and then I'm going to cook it in a little bit of butter. Not a lot of butter, a little butter. And then when I remove the fish, after it's browned and cooked, I'm going to add the rest of the sauce ingredients right into that pan. And the drippings from the butter and the flour are going to thicken that sauce and give it a good flavor, not a fishy flavor. And that's how we're going to finish the sauce. I'm going to save some of this fresh thyme to put on the finished dish. I should start my pan here. Should have already. So I have about 3/4 cup of flour here, which is a lot more than we're going to need, but we need to have enough to cook the fish. I put some lemon pepper on there, and I did add a little cayenne pepper, and you could do that to your taste. I have the oranges here separately. I'm going to add them at the same time as the broth, but there's no need to mix them ahead of time. I need to take a break now and let the pan heat up. I'll be right back. Okay, I've preheated the pan on medium-high heat. I'm going to go ahead and add about 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and I am not left-handed, so here we go. Let's go ahead and shave that in there so it melts a little more evenly. But yeah, I washed my hands, and the oranges, and the garlic. I'm going to go ahead and flour the fish with my hands, but then I'm going to go wash my hands again. So I'm just going to lay that in there. I'm not pre-coating it with any kind of batter because I'm really not trying to have a big heavy coating on the outside of the fish. This is just to help it crisp up on the outside. Lay that in there. This is 2 bass, and you know, it doesn't always come out in 4 perfect fillets, but these look delicious. These are nice fillets right here. And in the pan we go. I'm not going to add more butter or more fat to the sauce. We'll go ahead and use the butter that's here after the fish is done cooking to thicken the sauce. Another fillet. Got a few smaller pieces here that'll fit in around the edges. Real life, ladies and gentlemen. That in there. One more. Okay. I'm going to wait till these are nice and brown on one side, golden brown, flip them. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to go wash my hands. Okay, my hands are clean, the fish is cooking. I did want to mention, if you're trying to avoid gluten or wheat in your household, you can use cornstarch for this coating in a similar manner. I'm going to turn the fish over so it can cook on the other side. And that's about what I'm going for. It's not the most beautiful, you know, like fried fish, but it's nice and brown. And the sauce, once we get the sauce done, that makes it beautiful. And the whole thing together is very tasty. Okay, after just a couple more minutes, I think this fish is ready to come out. And so I'm going to set it aside in this case, a shallow bowl that I intend to serve it in. I'm going to pour the sauce on top, so as I take it out, I know you can't see it yet on the video, but I'm arranging them in the way that I plan to serve it with the sauce. And I'll just pour the sauce over top. That one didn't get quite as brown. Let's give it a couple seconds. And actually the residual heat will finish cooking the fish. I don't think it was unfinished, but I don't want to overcook it. We want it to be nice and flaky and tender. I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit. Here goes the sauce. If you recall, the garlic was raw that I put in here, so I'm just going to give it a chance to mellow a little bit. I guess if you wanted to keep it separate, you could put it in the pan and saute it in a little bit of butter prior to adding the liquid. And I'm going to go ahead and add the oranges now too. You can see it's thickening up a bit. If you want your sauce to be thicker, you can make a slurry with a little either cornstarch and water or flour and water, but really just a very little bit. Because this is actually not a lot of liquid. We're trying to make a sauce, not a soup. I'm going to let that cook a little longer, and the next time we come back we should have a finished dish. And here we are with the finished dish. It looks pretty in person. I'm not sure if it'll come out on camera. But we have our nice browned fish, our fresh oranges and thyme, and the sauce. And I hope you enjoy it. Usually for a side dish, a green vegetable is good, depending on the season. Green beans, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, or a green salad. All of this took about half an hour, even with making the video, so it's not intimidating, and I hope you'll try it and like it. Thank you, Lord, for sharing your fish with us.